Yeah, welcome everyone to our second session of the day for the April town hall. Um, fairly short town hall today. I think we're just going to go through a few updates on where we are with roadmap items, just keep you updated, and have a look at a few other things like we want to improve our docs and get some feedback from you guys on that, as well as a couple other things like some e-commerce updates. Good. Let's jump in. So firstly, wanted to talk about what we've been working on recently that's completed and live, just in case you missed it. There's more than this. This is just a quick summary. I mentioned this morning that you might want to have a look at Studio V2 if you haven't. That's not on the list. That comes by default now with every new site. So do take a look at that and give us some feedback. But otherwise, first one there is billing reseller history. So if you're on the reseller model, you've probably noticed that you can see the previous month's breakdown of site data. So you can actually see it per site, a bit like you can on the current month. You'll now see that for previous months. It'll only show from March, I think, and obviously we'll store that now for every month going forward. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what's been going on, maybe which sites have been increasing. And obviously, if you needed to go back to a customer and justify something, you've got that data there. Any questions on that at all?
So this DNS improvement it's already been pushed out? And if so, what was the
Yeah,
improvement?
yeah, sure. So yeah, there's some DNS improvements that we've made, and we've still got more to come. But that was when you now add a domain, it will ask you whether you want to set up www as the sort of default, whether you want it at all. It's on by default. If you turn it off, it just obviously won't set any of that up. The reason for it is to handle subdomains. You might want to handle a subdomain, and obviously you wouldn't have www with that. The other improvement is once you've got a domain added, you'll see like pending if a record hasn't been added correctly. So for fully delegated, if it's yellow, orangey yellow with pending, then you might need to get in touch with us, or you might need to remove it and add it again. There just might have been an issue with that record. And still a few more improvements that we're working on with Platform OS, just to make DNS run a bit more smoothly. But is there anything in particular, DJ, that you're hoping for?
Well, I mean, it was just different in that whenever I had multiple, records of the same value, kind of sort of, like for example, multiple text records,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll need to create, or what I'm running into is the different systems requiring the DMARC, DKIM, and SPF entries, right? So I need to do that. I found on one site, I needed to do that for SendGrid, and I
Yep.
needed to do that for Microsoft Exchange. But initially, if you don't know this, you go in to create a DMARC, a DKIM, and an SPF for both of those. You can't have two of the same value. It has to have a unique name. So what you have to do is put both values in the same entry with a blank, name, or, as an example, because you can't have two blank names, kind of
Yep.
thing. I tried adding SPF just to make it different, and then it wasn't registering, kind of thing. So it just seemed like, oh, okay, sort of a little clunky. I wish it would just allow multiple entries, but then once you figure out that you can just combine them into a single entry, then it works, kind of sort of. And so I'm not sure if that's like by design or just the way it's set up right now.
I don't know whether it's a AWS requirement, a Platform OS one, or potentially even a sort of a DNS requirement. But yeah, we don't have any control over that. They all need to be. You can't have duplicate records, individual records. You'd have to have a unique name on the left hand
Right.
side. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no. It might be standard DNS protocol. I'm not too sure.
This might be a good example, Luke, of where we can improve the contextual sort of tooltips to who might come on to.
Yeah.
Well, in this case also with DJ, I've gone over this doc lots of times, and every time I find out I'm wrong about something and need to do it again. But my understanding is for SendGrid, the sort of default automated way of setting it up is that it gives you CNAMEs across to their DNS settings for the records relating to SendGrid automation. So you could actually have the SendGrid part in the CNAME and the Microsoft part in the text record. But I may be wrong about that. But I think that works.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I think I think yes, I think that works. But where I was running into is like, both solutions say enter the @ symbol or leave it blank as the name.
Okay.
And of course, the @ symbol is not accepted as a value, so it has to be left blank. But you can't have multiple blank entries. You can only have one blank entry. So I was having to combine, some records into a single blank entry. But what happens if those records end up being different? Then now I've got a problem here. That wasn't the case here. I'm just saying that was my thought, that this seems kind of, it seems like you should be able to have a blank text record, a blank CNAME, a blank, and then have, multiple ones, as long as the value itself is unique, or the destination or the IP or whatever, that is, that makes it different. It seems like you should be able to have multiple blank names, for each record. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was just a matter of having to figure that out. But once I figured it out, it worked, and it seems to be okay. But I can see running into this in the future again, and I may not I may not remember that.
I think
Hey,
as Matt
DJ.
says, it's a docs and UI thing that we could definitely improve. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if you've ever used MX, the super tools, the MX toolbox. And it could just,
Yeah,
very
I'm
good.
familiar with that.
yeah. And so like when I'm setting up records on the domains and stuff like that, I can go in and I can check it. I've had errors where I put the wrong designation in for the name, because I think you always have to have a name, whether it's an @ or whatever designation it is. But
Yeah.
I don't remember, and I'm not, I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly. I don't remember ever adding like multiple records at once, unless you're using a different tool maybe to do that. But usually you have to enter them in one at a time, and you can have multiple records, as far as I know, as long as they don't, like Luke was saying, it as long as they're not duplicate.
So in Siteglide, you can only have unique names. So if you've got two values that you need for blank or even xyz dot domain.com, you need to put the values, so the right-hand side bit, into sort of on separate rows in the same record. That's just how AWS works. So we'll just improve the docs and the UI to make it clear that if you've got xyz.domain.com and then a value of 1 and then a value of 2, you do 1 and then a new line 2 rather than two separate records, if that makes sense. It's literally just a UI thing that we probably need to improve.
Yeah. But thanks, Michael, for chiming in on that. Yeah.
Not
So
that
that
I'm
is
a master
partly...
at DNS.
Oh, it's a nightmare. There needs to be
is a
something else. I don't know why in this day and age it's still so hard.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so we'll keep improving that. And again, that kind of feedback will just, as Matt mentioned, we've actually got a topic on this call to do with docs and general improvements for usability. So that's one we'd love to add in, just make it a little bit easier to have tooltips, have clear information on what to do, but also contextual docs that bring up the right document for you rather than you having to go off to different places. And we'll come on to that.
Just showing an example in the docs, because I think that's where I probably would have started. I probably would have started in the docs to figure out how to solve this problem, and there just wasn't anything, there. In fact, I think I ultimately got the answer either through the forum or through Discord, asking the site. I think it was actually Matt or Josh, possibly even. I'm not sure. It's been a minute since I've dealt with this, but I just had to recently do it. I'm having to do this for all of my clients at some point, right? This new email deliverability, issue where they're requiring DMARC, DKIM, and SPF records on the domain, level now to increase email deliverability. But when I've got SendGrid that I need to do that for, so the workflow notifications don't go to spam, but then Microsoft Exchange also requires it. Now I've got two sets of these records that have to go in, and each one is saying leave the name value blank or use the @ symbol. And it just wasn't very clear when that instance happens how you're supposed to enter them. That's the issue that I ran into.
Yeah, sure. No, we'll improve that. Not a problem. Okay, just going through these a bit. We've got a few different updates. So I think other things that have been completed would be e-commerce, VAT calculation improvements. There's a second part to this that we're still working on the next slide that I'll show. And we've also been working on Klarna. So for Klarna to work, it was actually an upgrade in Stripe for Stripe Elements. So you've now technically got access to Klarna, Apple Pay, Google Pay, a few others. Google Pay and Apple Pay are on the next slide because we haven't quite finished making it easy to implement and the docs on it. So we'll tweak that and then all of it will be available. But in theory, you can do all of it right now if you need to.
Cool.
And then lastly, just some site copy improvements. We were getting lots and lots of sites being built and just needed a better queue system for it. So we've made some updates there. I might just, there we go, cool. Next slide. So yes, this is what we're working on at the moment, trying to get these out as quickly as we can. Like I mentioned, there was an improvement to the VAT calculations. One big part of that actually is changing to a 4 decimal place system for products. You might remember it from BC, that you had the ability on BC to set to 4 decimal places, and it just means that you can deal with rounding errors especially on VAT or tax more easily. So that's actually quite a big infrastructure change that we've had to work on throughout e-commerce, and very close with that, I think. We'll release that soon. Linking it back to the tax updates, if you're not aware, it's the ability to do, like, you can choose how you want to calculate your tax now. So if you want to do per line or per cart, there's different ways that you can calculate the tax depending on the client use case, I guess. You'll see that we've got quite a few e-commerce updates. I explained this morning, sort of a few reasons for that, really. It kind of makes sense to attack e-commerce all at once. It was sort of long overdue. There were some improvements that needed to be made. There's been more usage of e-commerce recently. Website Success, specifically on the call this morning, have been doing quite a few migrations from, say, Webflow WooCommerce or Shopify, and they've noticed that some features are lacking. So we tried to steadily get those in, and yeah, a few more that we plan to release. So I think we'll soon get to the end of that list, and obviously any feedback on anything else that's missing, do let us know. I think, yeah, I mentioned the others pretty much. The one to really mention would be the Flowbyte e-commerce layouts, and this kind of pulls it all together nicely for us. That we held off on e-commerce because we were kind of waiting for Flowbyte to release their e-commerce layouts. They did them in Figma a few months ago, and now they're steadily releasing the code versions. Once we've got all of those in that Matt's working through at the moment, we should be able to put together a really polished e-commerce template into the marketplace, and that will become our like demo site. It'll become our kind of go-to best practice for e-commerce, and we'll keep adding in functionality to that. And actually, you guys would be able to add to that via the marketplace as well. So I think we've got a good opportunity. If I just switch slide quickly, switch to here. sorry, 1 second. If I just jump across to here, and then I'll go backwards. Got a good opportunity to kind of make a really flexible sort of out of the box e-commerce solution where you're not having to start from scratch, but you can still do whatever you want with it. So there'll be all the different components available within the platform, and then you can just customize on top. We have done some for Bootstrap using the soft UI layout, but Flowbyte definitely is our kind of focus point. There's a lot of benefits to it, and they're doing a really good job of releasing some of those. Just looking at those specifically, there's on their website they have the library of components. You can use the drop down to get e-commerce, and then there's all the different sort of categories that they're working on. They've only released these in the last few weeks, and they keep adding to it. So let's go into a product overview, for example. You'll see they've got various layouts. They've got the free one that tends to be at the top, and then other versions as well with all the different attributes, those kind of things. So yeah, we'll keep getting those built in and really try and get e-commerce finished from a tying it all together perspective and making it easy for you guys to use. Any questions on that specifically? Covered quite a bit there.
Looks nice.
Cool. Yeah, e-commerce is a big job, but we're in a good place with it, I think in terms of combining the front end and the functionality and being able to add to it, especially through Marketplace. There's just too many limitations out there that obviously we want to just make sure you aren't limited to what you can do. Just jumping back again. So yeah, those are the main things that we're working on. The last one to mention is docs, an overhaul and consolidation of all our docs. If I jump ahead again quickly, we have docs in too many places and they're not good enough, and we just want to make it far better to find what you need as well. So the plan here is to consolidate the docs from all the different places. We've got them in help.siteglide at the moment, which is kind of more customer friendly. We've got developer docs, then we've got site builder docs and API as well. So we're going to try and put all of that in one place, and to make the infrastructure right, something I didn't explain very well this morning is we're going to use GitHub as the sort of central way of controlling it and making sure that it's all up to date. What I didn't explain very well is people thought that meant you'd have to go to GitHub to see them and use the docs. You definitely don't. GitHub will be behind the scenes. We'll then output those docs either into a docs website, or what we're quite excited about is being able to output them into things like a toolbox that you see here, the ability to have a sidebar, where we can do a quick summary with a video, we could have some help guides, and we can have links out to docs, which might load up in this right-hand side, or they might open up into a web page. So we're going to have a lot more control over getting the right information in front of you all in one place. And on top of that, hopefully definitely using AI to get you that right information, either by asking a question or based on keyword search or what you've looked at recently. So that picture there is a real screenshot of how it would work, and a modal that you can use to search from. So yeah, we just want to bring it all together.
Like a web app for the internet.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of.
Yeah, it's been a really hard one to plan out, actually. We just don't want to be limited by either third-party tools anymore, or going one way and then not being able to do something else with it. So yeah, by putting it all in GitHub and then using tools like AI on top and being able to output it however we want, I think we can make it a lot easier. And as Matt mentioned, we can do things like tooltips or this in context view to try and make it quicker and easier for you.
Yeah, makes sense. Update it in one spot and let it trickle out to whatever interface you need it to, for sure.
Yeah,
makes sense.
We actually got into a discussion this morning about how far we go with it. And one of the points was, well, we could try and do some better front end docs for your customers so that they can use the product better. But as we did that, we realized that you guys now have the ability to change Siteglide quite a bit. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is being able to change it even further. So you've got user roles, you've got custom UI, and you will soon have the ability to change the sort of left-hand menu and the look and feel. So it is almost impossible for us to do too many front-end docs because they just might not be relevant to how you've set the product up for your customers to use. So I think the consensus from this morning was have some really good simple guides on the basics. So adding an item in a web app, adding how to manage Studio, like an in-depth training on how to use the Studio UI. But not try and build docs for every single feature that suits the customer. We should focus on making sure that we've got great docs for you guys to build sites and manage projects for your customers. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, yes, it makes sense. But for people that are building sites for customers to manage on their own, I don't know, because then the customer still has to come back to the agency for help. I mean, assuming that the whole idea for a customer wanting to manage it on their own is so they don't have to ask the agency for help. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how many deployments there are that way, but I'm not doing it, so it makes it fits my model. In other words, what you suggested.
The other good thing about the structure we've got, so to try and answer that, is because we're going to have it in GitHub. In theory, we could make that it would be available for you guys, and you could kind of run your own docs off it if you wanted to do some customized or simplified docs for people. But the consensus this morning was that most people seem quite happy to focus on doing their own kind of training videos for customers, leaning on Siteglide docs a little bit, but actually to some extent helping train their customers up on how to use the very specific setup that they've done. But I think you're right, it very much depends on whether you've built a custom site for somebody and you're training them on that, or whether you just want them to learn Siteglide and use Siteglide out of the box.
Yeah, no, for the one or two clients that prefer to log in and make basic changes themselves, my model right now has always been the customer asks how to do something, I create a new video, a QuickTime video, real quick, and then of me walking them through the process of how to do whatever it is that they asked, and that way they can reference that video, at their leisure, anytime they want, kind of thing. Now, over the years I've done so many, the thought crossed my mind, maybe I should have a library or a repository of some kind of all of these, but I quickly realized that would not be the best place to spend my time doing that, because the instructions change, systems change,
exactly.
UI changes, so it's easier for me to just create a quick 3-minute video for the process in that moment in time, knowing that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I could be explaining the same thing, but it's most likely going to be a little bit different. So
yeah, I think that's a very good way of looking at it. Otherwise, you end up in our position where we're constantly having to keep on top of any number of docs. So yeah, I think that's a good plan, and ties in with what everybody else said. Actually, I think it was Nick and John actually said they do like a training session with their customer before they go live. They record it, and they've even got AI that kind of takes notes and breaks it down into sections. So they send that recording with the steps and the snippets to the clients. So quite a nice way of doing it.
Yeah. I've done the same thing in the past, but like I said, I don't have a whole lot of clients that are wanting to do their own thing. My clients just want to tell me what they want done and know that I'll get it done for them, kind of thing,
Makes
anyway.
sense. Anybody else got any particular feedback on docs? Anything you'd like to see? or any thoughts?
Oh, this looks great.
Jazzed about Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I'm excited about making that, adding that on and simplifying that without having to go through Stripe checkout or it being attached to Stripe checkout, in other words.
Oh, it would. Sorry. So it would be. It is using Stripe, but sorry, yes, not Stripe checkout. You're right. Yeah, it would be using the
Yeah.
integrated Stripe elements. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure we already have it, and it'd be worth chatting in Discord or something if you need it urgently. But otherwise, we'll firm that up and make it really easy to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay, well, what's next? So this is where, well, that's the bit I enjoy, looking at what we're going to do next and plan it out. As mentioned earlier, these are in sort of no particular order, but one of the ones I'm most keen on is the sort of admin panel customization. It's something we've talked about quite a bit, and with user roles and with custom UI, it's becoming more and more relevant that you guys might want to fully customize what people see in the back end of Siteglide. I'm going to jump across to the slide for that now so we can talk about it. But we've got this slide here. It is just for your imagination. It's not something that you might not go this far with it. But when I mentioned it this morning, it was something that people were keen on, actually. The ability to, you can currently change the logo for your agency, but what if you could change it for your customer's project and add their color scheme, just say 2 colors, let's say, and then totally control what they see on the left-hand side, and use custom UI in the central bits to determine what they see and can do. So while you could build everything front end, this would give you the ability to let your customers use Siteglide backend functionality in something that feels quite customized to them. Any thoughts on that?
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I mean, again, I'm like DJ was saying, there's lots of variables where if you have a client who's managing their own website and then you have a doc that, let's say, doesn't look like what you've designed for them, there might be some confusion, but most of my clients aren't using the Siteglide docs. They're just going through me in terms of how to do something. But what would be intriguing for me is customizing. I mean, I always like my brand up there too, I guess I'm egotistical on that. So like they're using big fish, they see my logo and so on. But as far as the customization on the left, it's nice to be able to give an end user just the tools that they need, because I have a lot of clients who don't want to manage the back end site. I don't want them to either, because they'll take the site down. But they have a simple task of entering in items in a web app or something of that nature. And so being able to really kind of customize something like that, instead of like right now, I have a client with the modules using a calendar, but then what if you could create a custom menu that said calendar, you know what I mean? So they could immediately go to that. And I think that's what you're talking about with this type of customization. And I could see where that could be valuable to really kind of give a better UI, user interface kind of experience.
Because if you think about it, you can already do some of it. So you can hide CRM, you can just not install modules, and you can control bits of it. But this is more about totally controlling it and saying, well, I want exactly these words to show and link through to a specific web app or a specific module, or
that's what you're talking about. The ability to do is to be able to take it and just create a menu item that is unique to the standard modules or a standard web app item.
Yeah, and someone else brought up this morning the idea of, I think it was Tim, being able to template that and say, for my agency, I want a site by default to have this menu, because that would actually allow you to do your own docs that, if you don't change it, would be at least relevant for a while. So yeah, we're trying to give you the ability to set up a default custom menu and then tweak on top.
A franchise client or something would really like something like that, probably.
Exactly.
I mean, for me, what comes to mind is like what you do, Michael. I would have my brand in there. And I do right now. It says RMCMS and has my logo, at the top. But being able to change the colors and the names of each of the items on the left, yeah, that would be great. So instead of it saying web app, I could call it whatever the web app is.
Yep.
Exactly.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. See, that would be really
And
cool.
you could control the hierarchy as well. So you might have a top web app, and then within it, some other links that are important, either off to another web app or something else. So yeah, total control of that sort of left-hand menu.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good. Good. Yeah, so that's one of the main ones. It's not as I say, in no particular order, but something I would really like to see. I think the next biggest that's UI based that can have a big impact for you guys is sort of categories and menu builder. We've really struggled to commit time to menu builder v2 just because replacing something that's there isn't always the easiest thing to prioritize. But I think we're now at a point where improving categories, making them more usable, drag and drop, and using that same process for menus is really worthwhile. And at the same time, kind of bringing in custom fields for categories. If we sort of put some time into categories in general, I think we can give you a lot more control over how people can manage and categorize content on the site. So yeah, we'll probably do some more designs on that and get them across to you guys to give us some feedback on and check we're on the right track. Do jump in if you've got any questions or ideas. Yeah, next up will be site builder update for building modules. That's just something we mentioned in the last town hall, the workshop we did on building modules. We just want to make sure that you can use site builder to do it, so everything's standardized and running off the kind of site builder approach. Again, I always try and reiterate the site builder isn't like, we're not pushing it so that you have to use it. We're just using it as our way of standardizing front end output. So because we put Flowbyte and SoftUI in as themes, we can kind of help standardize and make things work together. So if you build a module, let's say a reviews module, you might want it to work with e-commerce or work with a blog, let's say, or something. It makes sense if that's running off the same front end processes, but also the same kind of structure, like and that's what Site Builder helps with. So yeah, we'll get that updated, and then it should make it a lot quicker to build out modules, but also make it all work together, make it a lot more standardized. Lastly, on e-commerce, we've got discount codes on specific products and categories. It just didn't make it into the current work, and yeah, I think that could be quite powerful. I can't remember what it was that somebody said this morning. I think it was a client project that has a really complex requirement for discount codes, and I think it was Tim had some ideas on that, so it might be worth watching the recording if you're looking at that kind of functionality. And then finally, we had the booking module. In both sessions last time, the workshops, it was the one word that kind of just kept coming out, but everybody seemed keen on the idea of some sort of booking module system. Obviously, Michael, I know you've been working on one, and that sort of prompted some of it. But the thing we did learn is that every module could be different. Every booking system could be quite different, and it's been challenging to work out how we would put time into that and how we would kind of put it on the roadmap. So I think in reality, it's better that it sits as a sort of community workshop project where someone might be releasing something in the marketplace as a simple booking system or a certain type of booking module. And separately to that, or in conjunction, maybe we're all talking about it and trying to piece together some requirements and then build something. And that might be something that Site Gurus do or get involved with and assist with. So I don't think right now we've got one that we're going to build because it's a little hard to know what to build. But yeah, getting more discussion going on that I think would be good. Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much everything from our side that we wanted to run through. I think this is a good opportunity for this session to be more sort of feedback and any questions you might have. Is there anything that either from what we've discussed or anything else that you wanted to go through? I mean, that's good. I think. I assume it means that hopefully you're able to do everything you need to do at the moment. Obviously, yeah, we're here to help and want to keep improving the product, making sure that all product projects are possible, and we're really on a mission at the moment to make everything easier and quicker. I think I explained it earlier as sort of easier, faster, and better. Sorry, somebody wants to jump in.
I do have a question, and
Yep.
forgive me if I swear, but what's the status on
WordPress.
AI search docs?
Oh, okay.
Michael, hey, let me say this first. I've been where you are, bro. So I understand that pain point. For me, it was tax. You know, when we first migrated over one of our clients, they needed a very specific tax calculation. We couldn't do it. It seemed like I would ask the team, where are we on this? Where are we on this? And it took forever, you know, to launch. But I mean, I understand there's the dynamic that Siteglide is dealing with here is the things that they really need to spend time on versus the things that you know are just things that would be nice to spend time on. And I mean, if they could do it all, I'm sure they would love to do it all, but there's only so many people that can push this thing forward and evolve this platform. So
sleeping and eating is important, is what you're saying, DJ?
Well, I'm saying I can relate to, because I know you've been asking for this for a long time, you know, and
honestly,
my
client isn't worried about, because I mean the search function is working. Site Gurus has really kind of modified the search to kind of meet a lot of their needs. It was just all of a sudden AI search appeared in Platform OS, and it was like, oh, AI, everyone's doing that. Let's find out about it. And I just didn't want it to kind of drift away. Not that it's going to, because AI, everyone's using AI now, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But that's all. I just have to bring it up.
Totally.
I'm not upset about it or anything.
We want you to bring it up. We also appreciate understanding when things do take longer. On this one, it's kind of a bit of both. It's kind of maybe us not having as much time as we'd like, but actually one of the main reasons is Platform OS have been doing quite a lot of infrastructure updates recently, including a move to, Matt, you might have to help me here, but Elasticsearch 7, is that right?
Yes. So they have got, so first of all, let's start very at the beginning. We have two things. We have a database and we have a search index. So the database stores your web apps, your modules. It stores everything. The search index, we don't store everything necessarily, because the goal of the search index is to be really fast and quite clever, but just at searching. And generally those two things exist side by side. Every time you update our database, it automatically updates the Elasticsearch index. Platform OS have updated us to a newer version of Elasticsearch, but both indexes are both getting updated, but you don't switch across to the new version until you go in the CLI and you change the config.yaml to go to the new version. So we've got the ability now to, on a test site, switch across to the new version and start exploring what we can do with it. And we haven't quite got started with that yet, but it is sort of ready to have a go with.
That was like 2 weeks ago, I believe, Matt, or maybe even only a week ago. So
we now have the ability to so we now currently have three things. We have the database, we've got the old search index, which you're all currently using, and we've got the new search index. We've also had a client recently through Site Gurus do some custom code with us, where we've added a third-party search index that gets updated when they update their web apps through automations, and that allowed them to log into this third-party Algolia on their UI and look after his own search index and use their AI search functionality. That might be another option. The best thing about the Elasticsearch option is that it's built into Platform OS. We don't have to add any extra automations it automatically gets updated. If you added a third party, both would end up getting updated. You're almost doubling up, but it does give you the ability to get that complete control that you might want for a particular client. Yeah, the thing with the Platform OS one, we understand the search index. We understand that they're giving us more tools to be able to adjust what gets sent to the search index. So you can sort of customize what gets sent over. So maybe not everything within the web app or module. What is not clear to me is how much of it is AI and how much isn't. That's one of the things that we have to investigate. Because I think AI gets used as a buzzword, and sometimes it's actually not AI, it's actually an algorithm, which is often better, in my opinion. But we just need to be really clear what this is offering us in terms of new features and what it isn't. And Platform OS haven't documented it for us yet. It's still sort of new. They've given us a GitHub repo with an example in it. So we're expected to, at the moment, at this stage, to go in and sort of reverse engineer some docs out of that by poking it and see what happens. It's, I think, in terms of prioritization, because it's at the stage where we have to do so much work ourselves to understand it, if the docs from that were ready, it would go up the priority list, I think, because we would need to slot less time in. But because we've got to slot a lot of time in, it becomes harder to slot in, if that makes sense.
Right.
Hopefully that's an easy to understand update.
I think, Michael, you and I think we had this chat a little while back of, do you use a third party or do you wait? And I think Matt summarized it quite well there. If you had to and you're in a hurry, there are great ways of doing it. Algolia is a good option. If you can wait, I think it will be worth it in the long run. And
yeah, I have to go look back in my site guru notes. Gary did mention Algolia, but my client might have had a different need, that when he came back, he said, let's see what Siteglide or Platform OS has with this new search function in it. That's where it went. And so,
yeah,
but again, they're not, this isn't something they're screaming at me about. And you know, it's a search function, it works. And
yeah,
I'm more concerned about, uptime on their website and all that other stuff. And I want, focus on that.
Is there any particular use case for this particular client that I'm sure Luke's aware of it, but I might not be? Is there something about their search? Is it over multiple different web apps? Is it
they have a lot of web apps, and so they're just trying to isolate certain, instead of searching everything in the web app, like you said, it'd be nice to be able to isolate certain things in the web app that, we put that in the index, that kind of stuff. Because like my client is he loves Google Analytics. He loves the other one, I can't think of right now what he uses, but he likes to read all the stuff on his website, and all these reports keep coming back with some weird criteria. And it's like, sometimes I tell you, you're going too deep in this stuff. People are coming to your site, you see your traffic and everything, just because they're looking up a word and that's not the right word, and they're coming to this, it's okay. But that's kind of how they're built. But there was some errors that were also coming up, like, certain things when they would do a search for, like, it's a hospital, they would do a search for, let's say, a service or something, and they had the exact name, and it was coming up like in the bottom, they're searching for heart surgery or something like that. And in the web app, even though it was an exact name, the result was like 15 or 16 down. Gary was able to kind of fix that, but that was just like the default out of the box. And that was kind of based, because I think the prioritization on web apps is not the same as on pages for the default search, something like that.
Yes. So with GraphQL, you can do a little bit more, even with the old system, in terms of deciding which fields to look in. It's not about changing what's in the index. It's about looking at what in the index you're interested in that search. If you just use the include web app tag, it's just going to be searching everything, because without if you want to skip adding in lots of options, that's why the tag is useful, because it's quick. But you are skipping the options that are possible. If you go through GraphQL,
Yeah.
it takes a bit longer, but you've got a lot more options. So yeah, that's probably what then Gary did in that situation. Yes, I think really the sort of the golden feature that I think probably we do want from the Platform OS one is sorting based on relevance, because whether it's AI or an algorithm, what you get at the moment is these are all match, and you can sort them by alphabetical order, but you can't sort them on how much they match, giving a certain score to each match. And that's one of the things we want to look into the new Platform OS Elasticsearch is, can we get that sort based on relevancy? Can we ask from them before it comes through? I did skip over, there is possibly another Platform OS feature which is also interesting, which is more of a vector-based database, which can support a different kind of AI search that's more about spotting patterns rather than like text-based chat search. So
Did you say vector based?
Yeah, that's another
Vector?
feature to look into.
I'm thinking so that's like graphic,
No.
or am I not?
I believe if you have you ever used like an app with something like reverse image search on Google, or
Yeah,
Shazam for music, where you like hum the tune and it finds which songs you
yeah,
need. Is that
that's
kind of thing where it
okay.
finds patterns between very large pieces of data and goes, oh, these two match.
Right.
That's another feature that they are working on. And again, I don't think there are many docs for it, but that's another type of,
Wow.
which is why it's interesting to know the use case, because it might be there's a different approach you need for that particular use case.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to clarify, is that Platform OS have done a lot to set up the infrastructure for AI. So bringing in these vector databases mean that you can do sort of language modeling and anything sort of AI based using that database format. It's called embeddings, I think, and there's a certain number of embeddings that you might have available. To be honest, I'm not as up on it as I would like to be. But so that's one infrastructural change that they made. The other, as Matt said, is the sort of the search side of things, the Elasticsearch, and they've got more infrastructure improvements they've been working on recently. So we've kind of, in reality, in all honesty, we've kind of left them alone to focus on some of that and make sure that it's where at a point where they can then document it. And I think we'll all benefit from having that more fleshed out and documented,
Well,
and then we can kind of be a bit
I mean,
clearer.
that technology is changing like super fast. I mean, it's like rapid. So I don't blame them not going, okay, here's what we're gonna do. And then all of a sudden, within 3 weeks, all of a sudden there's something completely on the next level. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm blown away by some of the stuff that just the graphic apps can do. And every week or two, all of a sudden they've got some new complete feature that took it way beyond where it was. Some of the video AI stuff is just like, what the heck,
Yeah.
So I
And I
can
think,
understand why they're probably not wanting to nail it down.
and
Did
they're
you hear the
even
Tyler
limited.
Perry's?
Oh,
Say
sorry,
what?
did you say?
Michael, I was wondering if you heard the Tyler Perry story about that.
The Tyler Perry story? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so Tyler Perry was in the process of building an $800 million expansion to his studio in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But when he found out about video AI, he permanently put that expansion on hold, and he made a statement, something to the effect of, "Man, I am completely blown away by this technology, and I'm feeling sad for my colleagues at the same time, because
Yeah.
this technology is going to disrupt a lot of my friends in this business." And I
Yes.
thought that was a really profound statement. I haven't really seen what he saw, but I can imagine that, rather than having to stage something on a set in a building somewhere where you're having to build all of that, to be able to just tell AI through some text prompts what video you want and it be able to produce it. Dang, that's powerful.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the whole actor strike that happened, about a year ago or so on. It was based on a lot of that technology where an actor, and my sister's a voice actor, so she's very, AI is like I can't get into the subject with her. And I totally respect, I understand where she's going. I'm not 100% advocate on it, but um, basically an actor or a voice artist or an actor, whatever, comes in and they're scanned, their body is scanned or their voice is analyzed. They're paid for that session, but then they turn around and from there, AI can be generated from all that session. And so the issue that these actors were having, rightly so, was I'm just getting paid once. I'm not getting any royalties for what AI is creating from my one-time scanning session.
Right.
I'm going to strike, this isn't fair, and rightly so. And so that's where that's whole thing. And I think they kind of negotiated some things, but I'm not sure how much it is, but I just don't want to get to Terminator level where we have to fight robots. That's kind of scary, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But
No, I don't think it's
some of the
that
things I
way.
can do in Photoshop now, I'd never dreamed of. I mean, isolating the background I just snap my finger and the background's isolated. And I'm like going, I like that.
Oh, no doubt.
But
Things are better and
but
easier. I mean, I remember
the
building all
art
that
thing
stuff
is,
from scratch. Yeah.
yeah. But the art thing, I mean, because I can generate art in different formats that I've never been trained on, and just by a prompt, and you're like, wow, okay, I can see how an artist who's been trained in it would, music, they have it in music now, and that's, they're making these songs now that, let's have the weirdest lyrics, like I ate a candy bar, and then they make it sound like, a Rolling Stone song, and it's nuts,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. I didn't mean to, but
Just on
you know what I
the
mean?
search, just going back to what we said about the search sort of requirement
Yeah.
for the client, using the existing system, the sort of best results I've got have been to basically do what I think there's probably a technical term for this, I don't know, but what I call a layered search. So what you do is you first run a search, which is very, very strict. They say, let's just look in the name, and you get back, say, 3 results or 5 results. Then you do a slightly less strict search, which looks in the name and the description. And then you start to allow and on the third layer of the search. Or you start doing or, and you just get and start getting fuzzy, so it lets you have a few spelling mistakes. And then you take all of those layers and then you stitch them together into one set of results. And that tends to give you a better feeling of getting the most relevant result at the top. And then you get slightly more niche results lower down. The challenge there is getting pagination right, but what you can do is you can feed all those IDs into another query which just does the pagination for you, filtered by those IDs and sorted by them. So it takes a little bit of time, but you can get quite a good customized search result from that. In the now short term, that's quite a good way of doing it. It does need to be a GraphQL to get the full ability from that, rather than through include web app tags. I don't know if that's helpful.
I think to summarize, if you have an immediate requirement or if you have any kind of requirements, it can probably be done. And there's custom code with GraphQL that we can help with if need to be on the Site Guru's side. If there's nothing immediate, then watch this space, and we will. I assure you, we're speaking to Platform S all the time, and we'll try and have something on this topic as soon as we can. Really, it's very exciting. It's something we want to do. It's just as you say, it evolves quickly and takes time to implement.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
No worries. Anything else? Any other questions or requirements? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we're just going to keep getting on with our list of work, and obviously support you guys in the meantime. Just reach out as normal, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks. Speak soon.
See you, everyone.